of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tistero. Chapter 123. Pros Night Out, Part 2. After checking in with Dabi and Tomra, he shoved his hair into a half bun and studied his reflection in the bathroom mirror. He'd cleared all of his stubble, he'd not gotten toothpaste all down his front, and overall, he looked presentable. Shrugging to himself with a sigh, he walked out of the room, flicked the light off, and double-checked that the windows were locked and the aircon was set to ensure the apartment was fresh and cool for when his oldest wards got home. He no doubt would be invited back to his fiancée's penthouse, the older man's incredibly discreet and quietly friendly chauffeur probably already on standby to drive him back to the cafe on Monday morning. He could hardly wait for Toshinori to buy up the apartment complex next door so they wouldn't be so far apart. Sure, it was a little motherhead of him, but the thought of having all of his precious people so close by was wonderful. He could easily see Tadeo and Oboro moving in, the pair of them perhaps living across the corridor or next to Seiji and Hisashi. Tomoko and Nomori similarly could leave that cramped studio apartment for something bigger and better. Jin and Chizome, too, wouldn't have to live by themselves in the tiny places they rented over 40 minutes away, and if they were all going to keep Musutafu as their home city when they started up a hero agency together, Keigo, Rumi, and Ryuko could live there too, unless, of course, they moved into the cafe apartments with his oldest wards and Spinner.
"You're such an irrational idealist sometimes, Aizawa,"
he muttered to himself as he jogged down the front stairs, his eyes rolling.
"You can't go making such big decisions for other people. They'll probably want to find their own places to live."
He sighed as he entered the kitchen. But still, a guy could dream, couldn't he? Huffing, he checked his kitchen over once more, looked at his watch, and walked into the service bar. Just as he thought, the sleek black car that ferried him around to such things on his lover's behalf had just pulled up to the curb outside. Sucking in a breath, he flipped off the lights, disconnected the smart till, snagged the leather jacket Namori had bought for him off the counter, and shoved his phone into its inside pocket. With any luck, he'd just be able to slip into the restaurant, try some nice food, and enjoy some time with his friends without anyone trying to pull him into the nightclub section. He could always ask Atsuhiro to compress him until the night was over, if such a thing seemed inevitable, couldn't he? Arriving at the United States of Smash Buffet Club, Shouta felt his incredulity spike. Toshinori had told him that the Americans were big fans of his, but to see his lover's visage everywhere was a little much. The frontage of the #1 pro hero's #1 place to party was swamped with people. Shit, people dugged out like this was a red carpet event. Why had he been told to wear whatever he wanted? Aizawa-kun, are you alright? Blinking, Shouta dared to meet Ichigawa's eyes in the rearview mirror before looking back out at the veritable sea of fans, paparazzi, costume-clad heroes, TV and film stars, all lining the spotlight-lit promenade sectioned off to ensure the public and news crews kept their distance. I fear that Yagi-sama has once again undersold how popular this event would be, ne? Swallowing thickly, he tried to jump out a laugh.
"I know that he's trying to get me used to such things,"
he told the driver as they crawled down the road, their vehicle now trapped in the flow of traffic.
"And it's not as though anyone here knows who I am, but these kind of crowds, all this noise," he breathed. "Other people cope with such things."
If I may, Aizawa-kun, there are very few people who could cope with the pace you set at that marvelous cafe of yours, the old lime-skinned man replied kindly, his hand lifting the small white black print decorated box he'd handed to him earlier. The difference, I think, is that you see your customers as people you're serving, as people you want to help, and friends, of course. He smiled. Yagi-sama is very similar to you in that regard. He furthered, the other's words making him blink once more. I've been working for him for the past 8 years, and out of all the clients I've been employed by, no one sees the value and expresses such genuine joy towards the public as he does. He chuckled, and just like that, his mind pieced everything together. Toshinori knew was all about people, but unlike him, he didn't see the fuss as something to endure. He saw it as his customers, wanting to be near him, wanting to share in his life and celebrate his achievements, which had wrought their feelings of safety, security, and peace. They were his community. God, how could he have been so blind? And now he felt bad about complaining and seeing the cheering, screaming, chanting fans as something to rush past and duck away from as soon as humanly possible. These men, women, and children, regardless of their home lives, backgrounds, sexualities, fears, joys, and personal circumstances, just wanted to experience the warm glow given off by his partner. His partner, who'd be walking down that red carpet in 20 minutes' time, boasting full Almighty regalia, and Anzu-chan at his side, the pair of them smiling at the cameras as just good friends, whilst helping to promote her career and show him off as the idol the public wanted. The last thing the blonde needed was to see him sulking, wasn't it? He'd been such a heel. Toshinori deserved his support, not his introverted panic, didn't he? He could set aside his own personal feelings for things like this, couldn't he? You stare down all for one, Aizawa. Stop being so fucking ornery and level up, he told himself as the car he was in purred up to the quieter secondary entrance where Anzu-chan's boyfriend and other partners of Pros and Stars who didn't want the attention were being ushered in under the guise of being staff. Are you sure you're alright? I can call Yagi-sama for you, if not.
Thank you, Ichigo-san, but I'm fine,
he offered whilst reaching for the passenger door.
Thank you for your insight.
He smiled.
You've really helped put this whole fame thing into perspective for me.
Stepping onto the sidewalk, his eyes looking for one of Toshinori's team, he was just about to grab his phone to see if he'd been texted where he needed to go when... Yo, Teach! Is that you? Blinking, his head snapped to the right, where his muscly form standing out despite the black suit he wore in a similarly well-dressed crowd, Shouta found Rapakendo waving at him from a couple feet away. What were the odds?
Hey,
he replied as the other jogged over, the younger man's face split by a huge toothy grin.
Congratulations on your big win the other day,
he added as the brunette puffed at his chest and chuckled. Yeah, well, without Todoroki, there some other posers dropped out, but I'd like to think I won just because I'm awesome, he replied, his patchy brows waggling. Speaking of which, when are we going to get together and have a match anyway? He asked, his tone peppered with excitement.
I doubt I'd be strong enough to give you a decent workout.
But you're quick and smart, Teach, the other cut in, that grin widening. Tell you what, I'll come make a cafe sometime and we can talk it over, he stated, even as the person who'd been giving them both an annoyed glare started to prowl over, his stoic face and sharp eyes distinctively displeased. "'Cause I'm a kinda sort of working right now," he sighed, a meaty paw waving at the blonde dismissively. "My boss's boss is a pretty big deal, so we're here to keep an eye on him. Ain't that right, Higuchi-chan?" he mused when the other growled next to him. "Yes, that's right. Congratulations on getting your last brain cell online," he stated shortly. "Now get your ass back over there before I call Chisaki and tell him that you've had a nasty accident." The older man all but hissed before shrewd eyes fell to him, his brows lifting a touch. "Oh, isn't he a little too slender and pretty for your liking?" "Psst! Don't talk about the Teach, Higuchi Teme. Can you see that ring on his finger? Didn't you watch his match against that Snapper-chick and Todoroki?" the brute gushed. "He could kick your meditating ass all over the street if he wanted to, you know." Feeling his cheeks brighten a touch, Shouta gave the ashy blonde a courteous incline of his head.
Rapazan is very generous in his overestimation of my skills, I'm sure,
he stated. Oh, Teach! Get you for the honorifics, huh? See, Higuchi, you should show me the same respect. The brunette preened whilst the pale-skinned man rolled his eyes simmering to something more considering. "The day I call you san is the day Buddha himself tells me to do so," he muttered before jerking his head back to the crowds. "No, come on," he grumbled. "You're not being paid to show off for anyone other than the boss, are you? Ah!" he added, his arms folding decisively. "You're no fun," the fighter grumbled before offering him a wink, turning around and heading back to where two more people were staring at them from the thickening crowds of paparazzi, security, and newscasters. It's quite rare for him to be so contained around someone who wants to fight," the man murmured thoughtfully whilst stepping into his personal space, those grey eyes appraising him thoughtfully. It was nice to meet you in the flesh, Aizawa-san, and I look forward to seeing you again," he added, a smirk tugging his lips. "Have a pleasant evening."
Yeah,
he breathed, his eyes picking up one of Toshinori's secretaries skittering towards him in his periphery.
You too.
After being walked into a part of the currently muted nightclub that had been cordoned off away from where the press junkets and posing would take place, Shouta sighed in relief as one of the servers brought him a bottle of water and the monitors flashed up before him and the other people sat there. The United States Smash Buffet Club is the place to be this evening, and as you can see behind me, there's no shortage of big names from the top 10 pro hero roster to some of Asian and American cinema's best film stars too. And speaking of best, best genius is here. Oh, is he divine? By 1930, all of the interviews would be given, the media hounds sent away, and everyone inside this place could relax in the privacy needed to just enjoy themselves. Rumor has it that Almighty himself will be here this evening as well. And look, there's Sonata and Mr. Compress, my. Don't they look dashing, but are they dating? Silky-san, what are the results from the latest poll, Do the public think they're just good friends, or is that partnership something they take from the streets to the sheets? Wow! How can people watch and enjoy this entertainment news? Oh, and speaking of dating and mating, y'all pals Minna and Ragda have been driving the crowds wild with their woven romance. The rated R hero, taking himself off the market, must have broken so many hearts, but according to the latest Heroes and Heartthrobs magazine survey, the pair are currently the third most popular LGBTQ pro couple. Now, isn't that cute? Why the media still categorize people based on sexuality, he'd never know. 80% of the population had quirks now, for goodness sake, with quite a few of them throwing what used to be normal in terms of orientations right out of the window. Who the hell cared anymore? How did they learn anything for the 21st century? Why were they as a society still obsessed with putting people in boxes? Boxes that they weren't even labeling correctly. Nomori had always been openly demisexually, and Tomoko too cited that she was a lesbian. It wasn't a secret. It wasn't a novelty. Hell, if the journalists were going to make a point of singling them out, then being accurate in their reporting was the least they could do, wasn't it? Oh, world-class news coverage at its finest, eh? Blinking, Shouta turned to regard a man somewhere around his partner's age, his smile easy as he presented him with his business card. Tokuda Taneo, freelance photographer, the plain rectangle stated alongside his contact information in neat ebony script. Wait, wasn't this supposed to be a secured area without members of the press? Oh, that suspicious look is one I've gotten used to over the years, so allow me to put you at ease if I can. The slender, rakish man smiled, his dark eyes twinkling. I've only been hired to shoot photos or promotions within this unusual dining experience. He grinned. Discretion is my middle name. He furthered, whilst raising his hand as though invoking an oath. Folks like me can't make good money through the same dirty double-dealing that our glamorous young friend on the TVs before us get up to, you know? He winked. Chuckling despite himself, he fished out his own business card from his leather jacket's pocket and passed it to him. Oh, straight cut cafe, how enchanting. He blinked. So if I may be so bold as to ask Aizawa-san, whatever is someone like you doing sat here by himself, he asked. However, before he could reply, the photographer leaned a little more candidly into the circular, thickly padded booth they were sat in, his thin brows lifting. Surely you should be arm in arm with your fiancé on that red carpet instead of Anzu-chan, ne?